Hello and welcome to this week's Glasstire Top Five. There are three of us, and it is the week of April 2nd, 2020. We are from home, we are social distancing, but we have a great list of art books for you. I am Brandon Zech.
And I'm Christopher Blay.
And I am Christina Rees.
And Christopher is going to kick it off. So these are books that we are social distancing, self-isolating, self-quarantine, hunkering down with. They're Texas books with one exception, but Christopher is going to jump right into one of his favorites.
All right, one of my favorites is this book, The Polaroid Project. It was an exhibition at the Amon Carter Museum of American Art in June of 2017, and I saw the exhibition and I love the book. It's full of really lush, large format Polaroids from a variety of artists, and beyond that it also has like some of the prototypes of the very first Edwin Land Polaroid cameras. And the thing I love the most about photography are Polaroids and instant films. So it's a treat to flip through it. I could flip through it and read it and flip through it and read it all day.
So one of my favorites is actually the book. It's called As Above, So Below. Here is the cover. It's by Bruce Lee Webb and Lynn Adele. It has a foreword by David Byrne. I think it's no coincidence that both of my picks this week are books that they're really good picture books about art, but they also have really good narratives, and they also have a lot of pictures of people together in the same place. This book, which beautifully done, by the way, with the red page lining. It was published by UT Press, and it is about fraternal art. So that's Masons, the Odd Fellows, Rebecca, these fraternal organizations that were popular mostly in a lot of small towns between 1850 and 1930. A lot of the pieces in this book, the artworks, they're really functional artworks that were used in ceremonies, or they were regalia that were worn during certain events that these lodges held. And they're good objects unto themselves. The photographs of them are great. And some of them were kind of mass manufactured to be part of this culture, but then these poorer lodges had to kind of make their own because they couldn't afford the big flashy objects that were made for these purposes. And it's a good read. It's a good thing to dip in and out of, or it's perfect to just kind of scroll through and look at the photos.
So for my first pick, and I need to tell people, I'm not with my books right now. My books are kind of spread out in different Texas locations, and the apartment that I now have in Houston has no furniture in it. It does have some books. I realize that if you stack books, you can sort of make furniture, but so I'm currently holed up with my mom in Fort Worth, and I brought two books with me, and I'm happy to put them on this list. But one of them is a show that's currently up at the Amon Carter. So it's the Perilous Texas Adventures of Mark Dion, which we put this show in a top 5 the week that it opened. It's a great show. I brought this book with me. I have a Kindle just full of books, but I brought these two art books with me because they're things that I thought I might want to cover more extensively while I was hunkered down. The show, I wish people could see it, but this is one of these exhibition catalogs that really stands apart and is its own sort of work. He took Mark Dion, an excellent New York state-based artist, took about 2 years to travel through Texas in the footsteps of some great earlier century explorers, and he did this incredibly warm show that reflects his own adventures through the state of Texas and coming into contact with various writers and artists. And there are essays in here by people like Gabe Martinez and Amada Miller and Eric Schnell down in Galveston, who came upon Mark and helped him on his adventures, and also his own journal and the curators of the show. It's great. It shows where he picked up all the objects that ended up in this fantastic show. And it's got wonderful writing, wonderful photos. And again, it's just kind of its own great object, and it's fun to read. So
gold-leafed edges again. We got a theme going here. Also, I was on one of kind of his fact-finding expeditions down in Galveston that was a part of this show, and just the process that he goes by kind of creating his work. I mean, I see that reflected in this catalog. But I feel like another theme that we're going on today is just things that are very well designed and can kind of live on their own, even outside of the art itself.
Throwing that right out the window. Speaking of things that are sort of neatly in place, is something that is refreshingly sort of out of place, helter-skelter, but makes complete sense. It's the Robert Rauschenberg 1995 catalog for his exhibition at the Modern Art Museum in Fort Worth. I happened to go to that show, and I got this catalog when I was a valet. I always talk about being a valet, but that's just, yeah, whatever. But Rauschenberg stayed at the hotel that I worked at, and he autographed this catalog. He has the monogram piece in here. There's the, I bookmarked these because I really wanted to just get a little glimpse. Some of the cardboard pieces, these were just like sort of installed in the main gallery area that's now part of the Fort Worth Community Arts Center. And this book is just sort of a great handy reference to Rauschenberg's work, and the objects are just really beautiful. If you can't see them in person, it's great to experience them in this book.
My second pick is a behemoth of a book, and it's something that we covered on Glasstire in 2018 when it came out. It is Collision by Pete Gershon. So this book, it covers Houston's art history from 1972 to 1985. Of course, it's just a portion of Houston's art history in the entire span of Houston's art history, but also in that time period. There's a ton of stuff and a ton of other things that happened at institutions around Houston that couldn't even fit in these pages, and it is a substantial book. Again, some really good archival photography of artists who were kind of establishing this Houston scene during that time, artists who I think are very important and are have been getting some more play in the last couple of years thanks to a few select galleries in Houston. And this, we know Pete at Glasstire, and this was a labor of love, and it's such a fantastic book, and it contains so much information about why Houston is the no zoning Wild West that it still kind of is today.
So my last pick, which really just becomes a bonus and is not particularly Texas based, is a new book. It just was released. It's called Video Art. The First 50 Years by Barbara London. Now, Barbara London was so well positioned to be the person to write this book, and it's a very text heavy book. I mean, it's it's the chronology of video art and its rise from the 60s when civilians were able to get their hands on video making equipment up to now. And she was the curator who founded the video art exhibition and collection of MoMA, and she was there from 73 to 2013. So all these golden years where video art was developing and evolving from this very kind of marginalized thing that tended to confuse and annoy people to its absolute sort of, what would you say, sort of dominance today with a lot of artists. And she was so well positioned for this. She grew up in New York City. She went to school in New York City. She was hanging around with the downtown crowd in New York City during all those wonderful years. And so just her being able to kind of tell her personal story coming up alongside the evolution of video art is great. This isn't about experimental film. This really is about video art. Actually, the illustrations are not really important in this case. If you want to go look at video art, you've got your screen right in front of you, and I'm sure you can see a ton of it from where you're sitting right now. But this is it's a really good read. She's a good writer, she's clear, she's engaging, and it's just an excellent way to kind of reestablish your understanding of the history of this, what is really one of my favorite forms of art.
So that is it for this week. We've kind of been touching on a few different things with these top fives. We touched on our 5-minute tours, and we might revisit that. But if you want to see art, pick up a book off your bookshelf. If you want to see art, visit our website and watch some video walkthroughs. If you want to hear about art, we have a podcast that's going on, and we have a lot more coming to you in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned and see some art.